Why does she start thinking about you the moment you go silent? Why does your absence speak louder than your presence ever did? Why is it that when you stop calling, texting, and chasing, she begins to feel something she didn't expect? It's not just mystery. It's not just space. It's the quiet power of emotional detachment, a power most men never learn to use. In this video, we'll break down exactly why the more you ignore her, the more she feels it, and how your silence, when rooted in self-respect, can shift the entire dynamic between you and her. Let's get started. Number 1. Less attention, more attraction. Women are wired to want what feels just out of reach. When you constantly give her your time and energy, she gets used to it. But the moment you step back, she starts noticing your absence. This is human nature at play. The more available something is, the less we value it. A man who understands this doesn't beg for attention. He allows his absence to do the talking. When you stop chasing, when you stop constantly reaching out, she starts to feel it. She starts to wonder why the energy she once took for granted is no longer there. And that curiosity turns into attraction. Stoicism teaches us the power of self-control, of valuing ourselves first. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." If you're constantly thinking about how to get her attention, you become needy, dependent on her validation. But if you shift your focus inward, on your growth, your peace, your mission, you radiate a different energy. And that energy is powerful. A woman feels it when a man pulls away, not because of games, but because he genuinely has other things in his life that matter. She feels it when your world doesn't revolve around her. That's when she starts wondering about you. That's when she starts to feel the pull. Consider this. A guy texts a woman every day, showers her with compliments, and is always available. At first, she might enjoy it, but over time, it becomes predictable. Now, imagine that same guy suddenly stops initiating. He focuses on himself, his passions, his goals. Days go by, and she notices the silence. At first, she brushes it off, but then it lingers. She finds herself checking her phone, scrolling through old messages, remembering the attention she once took for granted. That's the power of absence. That's the power of restraint. A Stoic man doesn't chase. He attracts by knowing his worth. He doesn't withdraw to manipulate, but because he values his own peace more than chasing approval. So the next time you feel the urge to prove your value through constant presence, take a step back. Let her feel what it's like without you. If she truly values you, she'll come looking. And if she doesn't, you've just saved yourself the energy meant for someone who does. Number 2. Silence speaks loudest. If she's used to you always being there, always texting, always checking in, your silence will hit harder than any words ever could. It forces her to think about you in a way she never did before. Suddenly, the comfort of your attention is gone, and she's left with an unfamiliar feeling, uncertainty. This is where the shift happens. When something is always available, we stop questioning its presence. We assume it will always be there. But the moment it's gone, we feel its absence deeply. The man who understands this doesn't act out of desperation. He moves with purpose. He knows that true influence comes not from chasing, but from standing still, from allowing others to realize his value in his absence. This is a lesson in Stoic restraint. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That applies here. You cannot force someone to miss you. You cannot demand their attention. But you can control yourself. You can remove your presence and let the silence work for you. Think about it. If every morning you wake up to the same sunrise, you stop marveling at its beauty. But miss a few, and suddenly, that sunrise feels special again. It's no different with attraction. If you're always reaching out, always available, she doesn't have the space to miss you. But when you step back, she starts noticing the gap. She starts wondering, why isn't he texting? Has he moved on? And in that wondering, attraction builds. A man of value doesn't need to convince anyone of his worth. He embodies it. He doesn't panic in silence. He embraces it. And in that stillness, he becomes the one who is truly desired. Before we delve deeper, take a moment to engage with this video. If the ideas shared resonate with you, or if you have thoughts on how silence plays a role in your interactions, I invite you to hit that like button, drop a comment below, or simply type "Silence is golden" in the comments to let me know you're reflecting on these concepts. Now, let's explore how this principle of restraint and silence extends beyond personal relationships and can be applied in broader aspects of life, embodying the Stoic wisdom that guides us to value ourselves and let our actions speak volumes. Number 3. She notices what's missing. Attention is like oxygen, essential, unnoticed when present, but deeply felt when it's gone. The moment you take it away, she begins to feel the void. It's not always immediate, but it builds. She may not have realized just how much she depended on your presence, on your messages, your attention, your emotional availability, until suddenly you're no longer there to provide it. That's the hidden paradox of attraction. The more constant and predictable your presence, the easier it is for her to take it for granted. But the moment you pull back, the silence becomes deafening. The absence becomes louder than any words you could say. This is why a man who masters his energy, who knows how to direct it with purpose, becomes magnetic. He doesn't need to chase. He doesn't need to over-explain. His withdrawal says more than 1,000 declarations. When you give your attention freely, endlessly, and without boundaries, it loses its value. But when you become selective, when your presence is earned, not assumed, it commands attention. Suddenly, she starts to notice the shift. Why has he gone quiet? Did I lose him? Is he moving on? These questions begin to stir within her, and with them comes a wave of curiosity, desire, even regret. That's the power of emotional discipline. That's the strength Stoicism teaches us to cultivate. As Epictetus wisely said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." Apply that to your relationships, and you realize something powerful. The more you need her attention, the weaker your position becomes. But the moment you free yourself from that need, when your focus turns inward, toward your purpose, your peace, your path, you step into a position of true control. You're no longer reactive. You're no longer dependent on external validation. Think about it. When you're always the one reaching out, always the one initiating, always the one available, she has no reason to wonder, to question, or to pursue. Your consistency becomes a comfort, but also an expectation. There's no mystery, no challenge. But when you remove yourself from the dynamic, even temporarily, she starts to feel that emptiness. Not because you played a game, but because she finally has the space to reflect on what your presence actually meant. And often, that reflection hits harder than any direct conversation. So remember, your attention is your power. Don't give it to those who don't value it. Be calm, be composed, and let your absence speak where your words no longer can. Because in silence, the truth always echoes loudest. Number 4, she starts chasing. Attraction is built on tension. When you back off, she naturally leans in. Why? Because humans want what they can't fully have. The moment your attention disappears, she feels an unfamiliar shift. Something is missing. She starts wondering, why isn't he reaching out? And in that space of uncertainty, desire grows. This is how the mind works. We don't chase what's already in our hands. We chase what feels just out of reach. When you were always available, she didn't have to think about you. But now she feels the silence. Now she replays old conversations, checks her phone, and second-guesses your absence. That's the pull of tension. The less you give, the more she wants. A man who understands this doesn't panic when a woman pulls away. He doesn't flood her with messages or beg for attention. He knows his value, and he holds his ground. This is Stoic discipline in action. As Seneca said, "He who is everywhere is nowhere." If your energy is constantly being poured into someone who isn't reciprocating, you're depleting your power. But when you redirect that energy inward to your goals, your growth, your peace, you become the one who is truly in control. Power isn't in pursuit, it's in presence. It's in knowing that your time is valuable and refusing to waste it on someone who hasn't earned it. When you stop chasing, you shift the dynamic. She's no longer certain of you, and that uncertainty is what makes her want more. So, step back. Let her feel the difference. Let her adjust to your absence instead of you always adjusting to her presence. Because a man who holds his ground doesn't just attract, he commands attention without ever needing to ask for it. As we explore the subtle dynamics of attraction and the power of stepping back, I encourage you to pause and reflect on your own experiences. Have you ever noticed a change in someone's interest when you shifted your focus away from them? If this concept of tension and the value of your presence strikes a chord with you, share your thoughts in the comments below. Perhaps type "presence over pursuit" to indicate a moment when you realized the importance of holding your ground. Let's continue to uncover how embracing Stoic discipline and valuing our own time can transform not just personal relationships, but also our self-respect and overall life satisfaction. Number 5. You stop feeding her ego. Most men don't realize that constantly texting and chasing only inflates a woman's ego. She feels desirable, but she doesn't necessarily desire you. But when you step back, she starts feeling the shift. The attention she once took for granted is gone, and suddenly she's left questioning your absence. This is human nature. We crave what we feel slipping away. If you're always available, she never has to think about you. She never has to wonder, where is he? What's he doing? Because she already knows. But the moment you stop feeding that expectation, the moment you pull back, her mind starts working against her. Why isn't he texting? Did I do something wrong? Is he seeing someone else? And just like that, the dynamic changes. The Stoics mastered self-discipline. They understood the power of restraint, of knowing when to act and when to hold back. As Epictetus said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." And that applies here. You can't force a woman to desire you, but you can control how much of yourself you give away. Don't be the guy constantly seeking validation. Be the man who values himself enough to step back and let her come to him. Think about it like a flame and oxygen. If you smother the fire with too much attention, it dies out. But if you give it just the right amount of space, it burns brighter. It's the same with attraction. When you're always there, responding instantly, chasing endlessly, she never has to miss you. But when you go silent, when you remove yourself from the equation, she starts to feel the void. and that void makes her want to fill it. A man who controls his energy makes others crave it, not because he's playing games, but because he understands his worth. He doesn't throw his presence at someone who doesn't appreciate it. He moves with intention, and he knows that if she truly values him, she'll feel his absence and come looking. If she doesn't, then she never truly wanted him in the first place. So, the next time you feel the urge to chase, resist it. Let her feel your absence. Let her experience what it's like without you always reaching out, always checking in, always being there. The more you ignore her, the more she feels it. And if she really cares, she won't be able to ignore it for long. Number 6. She rethinks everything. Silence makes people reflect. She will start replaying old conversations, reanalyzing what went wrong, and questioning her own actions. The absence of your presence becomes louder than any words ever could. She may not have noticed your consistency when you were always there, but now that you're gone, she feels the weight of it. This is how attraction works. The mind is drawn to unanswered questions, to unresolved emotions. When you walk away, not with anger, not with resentment, but with quiet certainty, you create a shift. She starts to wonder, did I take him for granted? Did I misread the situation? And suddenly, you're no longer just a memory. You're a lingering thought she can't shake. A man who walks away creates more impact than one who begs to stay. There's nothing attractive about desperation, nothing desirable about pleading for attention. A man of value never convinces someone to want him. He simply steps back and lets reality set in. As the Stoics taught, control what is within your power and let go of what isn't. You cannot force someone to miss you, but you can create the conditions where they realize your worth on their own. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." In this case, the best response isn't to argue, chase, or prove your worth. It's to disappear and focus on yourself. The more you ignore her, the more she feels it. Not because you're punishing her, but because she's finally forced to sit with the silence and face what she may have lost. Think of it like a song playing in the background. When it's always on, you barely notice it. But when it stops suddenly, the silence is deafening. That's the effect of your absence. If she truly valued you, she'll start to feel it. And if she doesn't, then you've just freed yourself from a situation where your energy wasn't truly appreciated. Either way, you win. Number 7. Women want independent men. Neediness is deeply unattractive. It's not just about the chasing, it's about what the chasing represents. When you constantly pursue someone, when you always initiate, always text first, always seek their attention or approval, what you're really doing is sending a signal. I don't believe I'm enough on my own. And nothing kills attraction faster than that. Because attraction isn't about being available all the time. It's about being valuable. A man who doesn't need to prove his worth, who doesn't beg for attention, instantly becomes more mysterious, more magnetic. He gives off a calm, centered energy that says, I have options. I am whole, with or without you. And people notice that. Women feel it. It's not arrogance. It's a quiet confidence that speaks louder than any words ever could. When a woman senses that you're not desperate for her validation, it creates a kind of tension, the good kind. It plants questions in her mind. Why isn't he chasing me? Why isn't he trying to win me over like everyone else does? That small dose of uncertainty disrupts her expectations. It breaks the pattern. And that's when something shifts. Because instead of you proving yourself to her, she begins to feel the need to prove herself to you. That's the power of being non-needy. The ancient Stoics understood this well. They believed that the strongest man is the one who is self-sufficient, who relies on his own sense of worth rather than external applause. As Epictetus wisely put it, no man is free who is not master of himself. When you're chasing, you're not in control. Your emotions are. You're letting your desire dictate your actions. But when you stand still, grounded, and emotionally regulated, you become the one in control. Think about it like this. Imagine two men. One is always on his phone, anxiously checking for a reply, overthinking every word he sends, constantly looking for signs that she likes him. The other man is living his life, pursuing his goals, focused on his craft, centered in his values. He doesn't ignore people, but he responds when he chooses to, not out of nervousness, but out of intention. Which man do you think she finds more attractive? The one chasing or the one who moves with quiet assurance? The truth is, confidence doesn't come from being liked. It comes from knowing your worth, even when no one is watching. When you stop seeking external approval, you start radiating internal power. And that's what draws people in. Not the neediness, not the effort to be chosen, but the certainty that you are already enough. Women, and people in general, are drawn to those who don't need attention to feel good about themselves. They're drawn to the man who can sit in silence, walk away when necessary, and still feel complete. That's what makes your presence powerful. That's what makes your absence even more powerful. Because when you embody this mindset, when you truly live it, not as a game, but as a way of being, you'll start to notice something. The more you stop chasing, the more you're chased. And that's when you'll understand. You never had to prove your worth. You just had to remember it. Number 8. Mystery makes you irresistible. Predictability kills attraction. If she knows exactly what you're going to do next, when you'll text, how you'll respond, how easily she can get your attention, there's no excitement, no mystery. But the moment you stop engaging, the moment you remove yourself from the equation, the script flips. Suddenly, she's the one wondering about you. Human nature craves novelty. We chase what feels just out of reach, and we value what isn't guaranteed. When you're too available, too predictable, you become routine, comfortable, but uninspiring. But when you introduce a level of unpredictability, when you show that your life doesn't revolve around her, you become intriguing. She starts asking herself, why hasn't he texted? What's changed? Has he moved on? That curiosity creates tension, and tension fuels attraction. A disciplined man understands that unpredictability makes him fascinating. He doesn't move in a way that's obvious or expected. He moves with intention. He's not playing games. He's simply focused on his own path. He doesn't need to chase, because his energy naturally draws people toward him. As Marcus Aurelius said, a real man doesn't give way to anger and discontent, and such a person has strength, courage, and endurance. The same applies to attraction. When you're in control of yourself, when you don't fall into the trap of predictable, needy behavior, you stand out. Imagine two scenarios. In one, a man always texts first, always checks in, always follows the same routine. In the other, a man focuses on his life, responds when he feels like it, and never feels the need to over-explain. Which man do you think she's more drawn to? The one she can read like a book, or the one who keeps her guessing? When you become less predictable, you become more desirable. And when you have the discipline to control your impulses, to resist the urge to seek validation, you become the kind of man that people, women included, can't help but notice. As we unravel the dynamics of unpredictability and its allure, in relationships. I encourage you to ponder your own patterns. Have you noticed how becoming less predictable affects the way others perceive and respond to you? Share your experiences or thoughts in the comments below. Do you agree that unpredictability enhances attraction? Or perhaps type "mystery magnifies" if you've observed how keeping things uncertain can heighten interest. Number 9. Her ego takes a hit. Women are used to having attention, whether it's social media validation, compliments, or men constantly pursuing them. They rarely experience true absence. But the moment she realizes she no longer has yours, it disrupts her confidence. It forces her to question what changed, why you've stopped giving her what she once took for granted. And that shift, it gets to her. She may not have even liked you that much, but suddenly she feels the need to win you back. Not because she wants you, but because she wants to restore her sense of power. This isn't about love, it's about ego. The attention she assumed would always be there is gone, and now she's left wondering, why isn't he reaching out? Did I misjudge him? Has he moved on to someone else? That uncertainty makes her uneasy, and ironically, it makes her think about you more than when you were giving her all your energy. A Stoic man never fights for control. He lets others wrestle with their own egos. He understands that attraction isn't about chasing, it's about positioning. Instead of wasting time proving his worth, he focuses on himself, his purpose, his discipline. He doesn't play into emotional power struggles because he knows that real confidence isn't about needing to be wanted. It's about being secure whether he's wanted or not. As Epictetus said, if a person gave your body to a passerby, you would be furious. Yet, you hand over your mind to anyone who insults you, leaving it disturbed and troubled. Have you no shame in that? The same logic applies to relationships. If you let a woman's validation dictate your actions, you've already lost. But if you remain unfazed, detached from the need for approval, you become the one who controls the dynamic without ever needing to lift a finger. Think of it like this. The man who constantly tries to prove himself is easy to overlook. But the man who pulls back, who holds his ground, who doesn't need her attention, that's the man who lingers in her mind long after he's gone. And if she truly values you, she'll come back. Not because you begged, but because she felt the void you left behind. Number 10. Distance rekindles desire. Time apart doesn't just create distance, it creates nostalgia. When you stop texting, calling, or constantly showing up, something interesting happens. She starts to wonder, not just about where you went, but about everything you brought into her life. The little things, your voice, your calm presence, your sense of humor, the way you made her feel safe, suddenly stand out in their absence. What was once part of her daily routine becomes a quiet echo in her mind. And that silence? It speaks louder than any words you could have said. She begins to notice the void you left behind. The comfort she used to feel around you now turns into a question mark. Why do I feel like something's missing? The energy shifts, and in that shift, she starts to reflect on the moments she might have taken for granted. Absence doesn't just sharpen memory, it sharpens attraction. When something or someone is always within reach, we tend to overlook its value. But take it away, and suddenly it becomes precious. This is something the wisest men understand deeply. They don't chase, they don't beg, and they certainly don't linger where they're no longer respected or appreciated. Instead, they master the art of letting go, not out of pride or ego, but out of self-respect. They know when to withdraw, when to let silence speak, and when to let time do what words never could. Marcus Aurelius once said, The things you think about determine the quality of your mind. When you remove yourself from someone's daily life, you're no longer background noise. You become a thought, a question, a memory. You shift from being constantly available to being someone she wonders about. And that wonder, that curiosity, it can be far more powerful than any attention you could give. Think of it like a favorite song. When it's on repeat every day, it fades into the background. It becomes just another part of the noise. But when you haven't heard it in a while, when it randomly plays again after weeks of silence, it hits different. It brings back feelings. It stirs emotions. Relationships work the same way. If you're always in her inbox, always one call away, always filling the space, there's no reason for her to miss you. There's no room for her to feel the loss. But when you pull back, gracefully, quietly, with no drama, when she's left with nothing but memories and a subtle silence where your presence used to be, that's when nostalgia creeps in. And nostalgia is one of the most powerful forces there is. It doesn't just remind people of what they had, it makes them long for it. A man who truly understands this doesn't force attraction. He doesn't chase love that's drifting away. He knows how to step back, how to let her feel the absence, how to allow space for realization to bloom. And if she truly valued what you brought to the table, she'll feel it deeply. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but at some point, she'll look back and realize that the version of you she once had wasn't so easy to replace. And that's when your silence becomes louder than any message you could send. Number 11. You always win. At the end of the day, whether she comes back or not, you still win. And that's a truth most men overlook because they're too focused on the outcome instead of the growth. This isn't about playing mind games or trying to manipulate her feelings. This is about self-mastery, about rising above your emotions, reclaiming your peace, and standing tall in your own worth. Far too many men make the mistake of tying their value to how a woman responds to them. If she texts back, they feel validated. If she pulls away, they fall apart. But that's not strength. That's emotional dependency. And a man who hinges his self-esteem on someone else's actions is giving away the very power he should be protecting. True strength doesn't come from convincing someone to stay. It comes from knowing, deep down, that you'll be okay whether they stay or not. Because your sense of peace isn't something you outsource. It's something you build from within. And when you stop trying to control her reactions, when you detach from the need to be chosen, you become unshakable. You move from being a man who constantly seeks approval to a man who already approves of himself. And let me tell you something. That shift, that inner calm, that quiet confidence, it's rare, and it sets you apart. You can't force someone to see your value. You can't make someone appreciate your presence if they're blind to what you bring. But you can control your response. You can choose self-respect over chasing. You can walk away with your head high, knowing that you didn't lose anything. You simply released someone who never truly saw your worth to begin with. Here's the beauty of it. If she comes back, recognizing the value she once overlooked, that's fine. But if she doesn't, that's even better. Because that means you were spared a future with someone who didn't fully appreciate you. Either way, you win. Why? Because you didn't compromise your dignity. You didn't beg. You didn't betray yourself to be accepted. A Stoic man doesn't unravel when someone leaves. He doesn't chase, cling, or crumble. He stands rooted in his purpose, in his values, and in his peace. He knows that a setback isn't a loss, it's a redirection. He knows that no person defines his worth but him. So whether she returns or walks away forever, you still come out ahead. Because you chose you. You stayed grounded. And in a world that constantly tries to pull you off balance, that is the ultimate win. As we wrap up today's exploration of how silence can intensify feelings of curiosity and attraction, it's clear that the more you step back, the more profound the impact. Remember, it's not about disappearing from her life completely. It's about valuing yourself enough to not overextend your presence. This strategic withdrawal taps into a fundamental human psychology. We cherish what isn't readily available. The Stoics were wise to this, teaching us the power of self-worth and the importance of focusing inward. By practicing the art of selective engagement, you not only foster a sense of mystery, but also allow for a deeper appreciation of your value. It's about commanding respect through your composure and letting her feel the weight of your absence. This approach isn't just about gaining affection. It's a pathway to cultivating a genuine, balanced connection based on mutual respect and interest. If today's content resonated with you, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more insights. Have any thoughts or experiences with this strategy? Drop a comment below. I'd love to hear how you've applied these principles in your own relationships. And don't miss out on furthering your journey. Check out the recommended videos on your screen right now to deepen your understanding of Stoic philosophy in modern life. Remember, your engagement helps spread these valuable lessons to others in search of guidance. Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep embracing the wisdom of restraint and self-respect.